the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge. The globe. It is I, your lovable host, Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. And yes, I did check again today. It is live free or die. It is Wednesday, hump day to some people. August the 5th in the year of our Lord 2015. So we're making it over the hump midweek already. It means, tomorrow we start sliding into the weekend. Now, I hope all of you have some good plans for the weekend because, summer, especially if you live in the northern half of the country, summers are fleeting at best. They're just short time period. So get out there and do the yard work and do some of your chores, but also enjoy yourselves. Besides, that favorite pastime of yours, whatever it might be, if liberals get a hold of it, you may not be able to do it pretty soon, or it will be highly regulated and you'll need a license of some kind in order to do it. That's just the direction they're going. We got a lot to go over and cover today. Oh, by the way, if you wish to call the show live this evening, its toll-free number is 603-835-3776. 603-835-3224. That's 603-835-3224. By the way, I had somebody tell me on Twitter that my DJ voice sounded like Obama on crack or something. Something like that. I don't know. Does everything have to sound like Obama? I mean, some people really do have an issue with listening to that guy. Well, I don't know. Maybe Obama actually sounds like a good old-fashioned 70s DJ. Sometimes I wonder where he gets that voice. You know, I've often wondered that. And I've wondered it out loud. And I got to tell you, it perplexes me big time. Now, to many people, when you listen to Obama talk, when you listen to him speak, it isn't the words that he's using. It's his diction and dialect. You know, he's got this urban accent, if you will. Now, you got to kind of scratch your head. In other words, to some people, Obama sounds black. He sounds like an educated black, but he sounds black. Now, look, you're going to get some people that, look, I've had people say, well, Rod, you don't sound black. Well, of course not, dear. I could never possibly sound black. I do not use the language known for the colloquial isms called ebonics. But Obama doesn't, he sounds black. There are different versions of sounding black. I mean, you've got the Jay-Z black, and you've got, if anybody knows who Meek Mills is out there, he's another rapper. I've listened to Meek Mills speak. I can't understand a damn thing that man is saying. I need a translator. Seriously. Well, he's supposed to be speaking English, but I need a translator for him. So he doesn't, Obama obviously doesn't sound like Meek Mills. But then you got to wonder, well, how many people really, does Will Smith sound black? Yeah, to many people, Will Smith sounds black, but he doesn't have that deep urban diction or dialect, but he sounds black. And so does Obama. I guess you call it the Hollywood black, maybe, for Biden fans, he's the clean and intelligent black. So he's got the clean and intelligent black diction and accent. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, Rod, what the hell are you talking about and where are you going with this? Well, and this is not to fuel conspiracy theorists out there about where Obama was born or anything. But let's face it, the man didn't grow up in the inner city. He grew up in two places that were far removed from blacks. Therefore, he isn't going to have, or should not have, the urban diction. He grew up in Malaysia and Hawaii. Now, if anything, the president should be running around saying, "Hey, brah." He should have that Hawaiian accent, but he doesn't have that. So I don't. In the urban dialect, I'm sorry, it is not like a southern drawl. It is not contagious. It's not catchy. You don't pick it up unless you want to pick it up. Now I got to tell you, the southern drawl, the various types of southern drawl. There's different levels of southern drawl. You have the different kinds. You've got the, I guess what do they call it? The Mid-South, like Kentucky and places like that. And you got the Northern South, which is like Virginia. You got the Deep South, which is, you got the Atlanta, Southern drawl, which is, I think actually women with this Atlanta Southern drawl, I think they sound, if you ever watch the TV show Designing Women, I think that dialect, that diction, is sexy. On a woman. I really do. I think so. Hey, ladies, if you're from the South, if you're from Atlanta area and you got that accent, we may be able to talk there. But I think that I'm not a big fan of the Southern drawl, but that particular diction of the Southern drawl, the Atlanta area, is kind of sexy on a woman. And it kind of makes men sound gentlemanly, like, Lindsey Graham, has that Atlanta, Georgia type of a southern accent, if you will. And of course, there's a Texas the Southern accent, which is, rather you can kind of tell where people are from. But that Southern drawl, the Southern accent, can be contagious and catchy. In fact, a lot of people that, if they move from the West or from the North down into certain parts of the Deep South, and they're there for any length of time, they pick up that Southern drawl. And it's totally not, it's not on purpose. It just happens for whatever reason. However, by the same token, if people have to move into or hang around a lot of people from the urban areas, they don't pick up the urban diction. So I got to scratch my head and ask where the hell Obama got that. So basically what I'm saying is Obama's a phony. He purposefully had to pick up that dialect and that diction. He did it on purpose. It wasn't something that just happened. It wasn't natural. So I'm just, look, I don't care where you think personally, myself, I've seen a lot of evidence, and the more evidence I see, I'm beginning to believe that Obama is a natural born citizen. And some people are saying, what? How can you possibly say that? What? Well, because I don't believe, I'm coming to the conclusion, I could be wrong. And maybe there's some other evidence out there that will convince me otherwise, but I'm coming to the conclusion, looking at all the evidence of timing and photographic evidence and how how Obama looks and where his mother was and all that kind of stuff, and I'm coming to the conclusion, and looking at what had happened during that time frame and time period, I've come to the conclusion that Obama is a natural born citizen. Because his daddy is most likely not Barack Obama Sr. from Kenya, but Malcolm X. Now, for those of you who might think I'm off the deep end, I'm not going to try to explain why I'm leaning towards that, but let me just point to just some picture evidence, if you will. Take a look at a picture of Barack Obama, Sr., and Malcolm X. Now, you tell me which man that Barack Obama, the president, looks more like. And he looks more like Malcolm X. I'm going to be honest about it. He looks a lot more like Malcolm X. But, we probably never will know the absolute truth unless somebody's able to do a DNA sample on all three men. Maybe we'll get lucky and he'll decide to do the Ancestry.com mouth swab DNA sample kit thing, just to find it. Well, we know where I guess he knows his mother's heritage, and we supposedly know his daddy's heritage, Barack Sr. But it also might explain why he isn't so close to his Kenyan family. Maybe President Obama knows that Barack Sr. isn't his dad. There have been some suggestions about Malcolm X. Even though Malcolm X, much like Louis Farrakhan is today, was preaching all about black power and black this and black that and black liberation theology, but Malcolm X, from what I understand, had a penchant for white women. He had a couple of affairs with white women, and quite frankly, I would think that would be cause for death. If Louis Farrakhan found out that Malcolm X was having an affair with Barack's mom, that might have been enough to push certain factions of the Nation of Islam over the top to assassinate him. Just saying. And Malcolm X, he openly talked about it. I think as far back as at least 3 months before his assassination, that he knew he was going to be assassinated. He knew, and he probably knew exactly why, and maybe that was the reason. That's water under the bridge, and it really doesn't serve any purpose now because the man is the president. He's been elected for 2 terms, and he's pretty much almost done with his second term. Thank God. But but anyway, we got a lot to cover tonight. Some House Democrats are coming out against the Iran deal. There's some IRS reporting out there, some reports in the IRS and how they're handling, conservative requests to be, nonprofit groups, climate. Maybe I'll start a super PAC. Maybe I'll start I was actually thinking, and I'm going to bring this up next week, but just wrap your heads around this. I was actually thinking about starting a veterans, Friends of Veterans group. Now, don't get me, we've got a lot of wonderful groups out there that help vets, but here's the issue. I haven't seen, we've got Wounded Warriors, and they do a great job helping wounded veterans cope and recover and try to lead normal lives. And you have certain veteran groups that are out there that help veterans with PSTD and how to come back from combat and live a normal life and reintegrate in society. But I don't see a lot of strong groups out there who just will, for any issue, especially on health care, will just be the warrior for the vet. So what I'm thinking about doing is looking into starting a new ultra nonprofit group and PAC called Warriors for Vets. And yeah, this comes about because I've seen the treatment that my own father has received from the VA hospital, and it's atrocious. It really is. And I have learned by him being in and out of the hospital over the past few months, some of the stories from other vets, from all age groups, having to go through the same thing, and then finding out, some statistics about how the VA and the government is trying to manage their costs through the VA, and it's appalling and it's atrocious. And then, this kind of atrociousness is coming from both sides of the political aisle. So don't think it's just Obama out there trying to screw the vet, although he's leading the charge. But and this is why I say that we need a nonpartisan, group of people who are warriors for vet. Now, look, the vets are out there fighting for our freedom and our liberty every single day. The least we could do is fight for them, and that includes things like them being able to defend themselves on homeland soil by being able to carry their own weapons. With all this stuff that's going on about, I got some other information here today about soldiers being shot at in America. I mean, this is ridiculous. Our soldiers should be allowed to be armed to the teeth. Well, and I know some people are saying, well, Rod, that's kind of a bad idea because what if they decide to turn those guns on civilians? Well, they could do that anyway. It doesn't matter if they're carrying them. They can still get, if they're ordered to start, a war against the American people, having their guns locked up is not going to keep them from following orders and going to battle. That's the whole point. But so that is that's a red herring issue. That's not gonna, that has nothing to do with it. But stuff like that, and I'll get more into that next week as I do more research. And because look, I like to know stuff, and before I can really tell you the whole story, I got to make sure I got my facts straight. See, I'm not one of these guys that run around out there and just start spouting all kinds of stuff. I want to make sure I got the facts. I want to make sure I know the truth. That's what it's all. See, you can always trust that I am going to do the research to get to the truth for you. I'm not going to speculate. Well, okay, so I'm speculating on the Obama birth thing, but that's just a hobby thing. Whenever I get to doing some research on that, I get to doing it. But when I'm bringing you real stuff, it's well researched. I'm not, I don't take one source. If there are other sources available, I just don't take one source and then you just run with, oftentimes you'll see, on my website and everything, I might have one or two sources, but understand I'm using that source because it seems to be the most plausible and logical at the moment, but it's backed up with a bunch of other sources. So it just doesn't stand alone. It's not like I just click on, oh, well, here's a story that comes across my newsfeed, and oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to go with that. No. A story comes across my newsfeed that catches my eye. I'm like, okay, Well, now time to do a little bit of research. Let's see what some other sources are saying. And I often go to, mixed sources. I look for some liberal sources on the subject or the headline. I look for the opposite view. So if it's a conservative headline that comes through, I'm looking for a liberal and a moderate. I'm looking for a number of different sources so I can actually try to piece together what the real truth is and get all the stats and statistics and numbers and facts that I need to get in order to bring you that kind of. This is why it takes a while to prepare for a program like this. Because I just don't go run around out there and just spout off the first thing that I see. How many times? Look, even when you do your due diligence, I do my due diligence, but even when you do your due diligence, sometimes there are people that do fool you. I'm not the only one that's been fooled before with news. I mean, hell, the news, the lamestream media has been duped numerous times, and I can honestly say I have been duped a lot less than those idiots in the lamestream media because I do my research. So you can trust what I bring to you. Now, if I would need somebody to help me run my website if I was going to list every single thing that I looked up and used for a source. I mean, it's just the amount of information that I have available that I gather is just absolutely astronomical. And I'm not really a real speed reader, although I do read kind of fast. I can skim and read kind of fast and get the facts, but I'm not a true speed reader. I really wish I was. I can get through so much faster. But yeah, look, folks, it takes me time to get through this a lot of times, and sometimes, I'll find stuff and it'll be from, like yesterday, from research I've done yesterday, and I carried it over today because I didn't have time to go over it yesterday with you. I knew I wasn't going to, so I'd save it and bring it on today so I can carry over. So the days when I'm really running behind the gun and I have very little time to finish my research, I still have something to discuss with you because I've already done pre-research and other stuff. So my information funnel, if you will, is constantly full. Constantly full. Because I'm constantly constantly looking at stuff to bring to you on a daily basis. And yeah, I do all that. I don't have help. I'm not like some of these other big hosts and even smaller hosts that may have a team of people or interns and all that kind of stuff. Even these stupid morning shows, local morning shows have interns and stuff. I don't have that. So all this stuff is I have to do myself, and I just do it because I just want to make sure that you guys all get the proper information. I don't want to end up with egg in my face. I don't want to be duped by anything. But we have Putin is, we'll go over some Putin stuff. He's making new worldwide land grab, and I don't think he's going to be stopped by Obama. So we may lose a large part of the globe, and you'll be surprised at which part of the globe that Putin is talking about is, hey, this belongs to Russia, Mother Russia. And a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a disease that's making a comeback, I guess, over in New York City. New Hampshire starts. Let's start the night off. Maybe I should wait to the after the break to bring this one to you. But New Hampshire has done something that I'm rather proud of. Y'all should be kind of proud of it too, actually. Well, you don't live in New Hampshire, but New Hampshire has done something that the federal government couldn't seem to do. And that is New Hampshire has defunded Planned Parenthood. Now, here in New Hampshire, I guess New Hampshire, the state was giving Planned Parenthood more than $800,000. Yeah, I didn't know how much Planned Parenthood was receiving from the state. So that, that's nearly $1 million plus, whatever the federal government gives them for the local plan. That's kind of a lot of money for a small state, and for a state that has a small budget, like, fairly small state budget. $800,000. I mean, that's just that's not normal. But hey, this is what this is. Well, yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, when we get back, we'll also go over some fact check about where Planned Parenthood really spends all their stuff, spends their money on, and you might be a little surprised by that. I know I'd be a little surprised by it, but I was a little surprised by it. And it's not something that well, yeah, and I know the debate's coming up, so we'll probably talk a little bit about the debate too. But when we get back, we'll get into the Planned Parenthood stuff. So hang tight, folks. We'll be right back.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-616-8010. That's 1-800-616-8010. Again, 1-800-616-8010. Call now.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Power Swabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is Ben Gordon with Power Swabs, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Power Swabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed by Dr. Martin Ginniger that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Power Swabs risk-free, call 1-800-291-5140. That's 1-800-291-5140. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-291-5140. That's 1-800-291-5140.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. Woo! There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
Rod Eccles.
Toll free 603-835-3224. I do want people to start calling into the pro. I know a lot of people, they say they don't call in because they just want to listen and hear what goes on, but I do like to have some callers. And I call out a bunch of liberals. And quite frankly, over the past 3 months, I have challenged a number of known liberals. When I say known liberals, I know that they're known to me via my social networks or my social accounts. And I have challenged these liberals every time I find them out. You know, they have strong liberal opinions, you know, behind the scenes or behind their computer. And I challenge them to call me. I say, here's the number, man. You got an open invitation to call anytime you want, you know, during the show hours. Just call. If I see your number, you know, give me your number, tell me you're calling. I'll put you at the top of the list if there are more than one caller. And I'll give you a full segment. You got an open invitation. You know what? I still have yet to get, I think I had one liberal take me up on that. One so far. And trust me, I have found at least 3 dozen to issue that challenge and open invitation to. You know what? You guys are chicken. That's all I can tell you. Just chicken. How to start? You know what? I'm gonna find an MP3 of chickens out there and just start playing them every time. It'll be the liberal intro for the Rod Eccles Show. Just a bunch of clucking hens. I don't call in. I don't get why they act so big and tough like they know everything. So call in. Just call, half of them say, "Well, man, I could take you down." Really? Okay. Give it a shot. You know, since starting the show in 2009, not a single liberal has gotten the best of me on my show, and I don't hang up on people and cut them off. So you get the full, Monty, the full range. You get a full segment. And I haven't lost yet. I don't know what my TKO ratio is, but it's pretty damn high when it comes to knocking out liberals with logic and truth. But hey, maybe they got that. You know, maybe some of them are going back and listening to some of my archive shows and thinking, "Oh man, this guy, he's kind of on point. I won't be able to take him." That's the truth. Hey, here's some fact checking. NPR. Now it's NPR, but understand that these numbers are actually. I did some research, like I said, and the numbers are pretty dead on accurate. Now, I've often said that I'm going to bring you the truth, whether or not we like the truth, or whether or not I like the truth. But let's be factual about stuff, because you can't do anything about a problem unless you know the facts that are causing the problem or the root of the problem. And this is about the Planned Parenthood revenue sourcing. And I believe that the government should quit funding Planned Parenthood. They don't do him. I know we constantly hear about the issues about women's health. Well, women's health, really, they don't do anything for women's health. Nothing. They don't do mammograms and other types of women's health screening. They don't. They're not equipped. None of their facilities are equipped for that kind of stuff. They are equipped very well for doing bunches and bunches and bunches of abortions, but they're not equipped to do, like breast cancer screening or cervical cancer screening or any other major type of major female health issue screening. They can't do it. No, man, yeah, they can check your blood pressure. Hey, your blood pressure's a little high. Maybe you need to go see a doctor to get that taken. That's what they'll tell you. If you got an STD, sure, they'll give you drugs to clear it up or what have you. But if you got something that's serious, they find out you're diabetic or possibly a diabetic or you possibly have high blood pressure or something like that. Hey, you got to go to your doctor. We can't treat you. So what health type of you don't need Planned Parenthood to go take care of your STDs. You know how you stop. You know how you don't get an STD. Yeah, I know it's a novel idea. Keep your pants on. That works every time. Don't go around pulling your pants down for. It's kind of hard because we have these stupid sites now that are really just geared for hooking up, and we constantly talk about rape. Rape is now this big thing, but it is getting that whole issue is getting more murky as time goes by because of all these hookup sites, and it's not just women who are allegedly being raped. The number of men who are allegedly being raped and sodomized is quickly rising, and this is due to all of these hookup sites. They're not dating sites. Sure, there are dating sites, and then there are hookup sites. There are sites that are out there that are meant to try to bring people together, for dating purposes, whether they be opposite sex or same sex, what have you. I don't care. But then there are also these sites that are very popular, from my understanding, and there's quite a few of them. Their whole idea is just, hey, let's just hook up for a night or two, and we'll just have lots of sex. That's all it's for. You don't even got to use a real name. So that's all this stuff is for. So I guess that's what Planned Parenthood is for, is to go ahead and mop up all the mess behind these hookup sites. Well, how about this? Why don't I think it was at the Ashley Madison site, how to for cheating, for having an affair and stuff. I think sites like that, they should start paying people's medical and legal bills. Or help, at least, because they're helping them facilitate to have this dangerous type of lifestyle. Now, granted, people are gonna, they're gonna hook up. People hooked up before they had websites, and people cheated on their spouses before they had a website to do it. I understand that, but the websites just make it easier. See, you used to have to work for it. And, when I was younger, did the whole thing. You go to the club, and the men are on the hunt for the women, and you gotta be able to use the right lines on women, right? Yeah, I was 18 to 21 once. I remember that. You got to use the right lines. You got to be able to get that woman interested, right? And then you go back to her place. You're golden if you got to take her back to your place. Yeah, it was an iffy thing. You might not get anywhere, but if she invited you back to her place, oh yeah, it was as they say in today's colloquial speech, it's on. But you had to work for it. You couldn't line up three different women at the same, if you're a guy on the same, well, most of us couldn't anyway, at the same time. You had to spread that out. You had to go out every night and spend lots of money on booze and stuff like that. Maybe take them out to dinner or something. But with hookup sites, it's just, you guys just talk about you look at each other's pictures and you say, yeah. I like you. You like me. Yeah, I like you too. And there's no like involved. The only thing you're doing is being attracted to someone's picture. And half the time it's probably not even them, or it's not them how they normally look. They're all dressed up or duddied up or something like that. We hear all these horror stories about this stuff. Women are saying, well, yeah, this guy came over. He didn't look anything like his picture. And the guys say the same thing about the women. In fact, there's a morning radio show here in the greater Boston area. It's called the Second Date Update or something like that. And what they do is it could be male or female, will actually call into the morning show and give them a scenario about a first date. And these, the people that call them and say, well, look, I thought the first date went great, but the person, I tried to text them or call them and they never returned my calls. They never returned my texts. I haven't heard from them. I don't know what happened. I thought we had a great first date. And so then they go ahead on the air and they call the person in question that had that this person had the date with. And some of the stuff that people actually share on the radio about what happened on the first date will blow your mind. So this is how I know about some of this stuff out there. All I got to do is turn on the radio and I can listen to it. It's absolutely incredible. So again, I'm saying, well, maybe it's just Planned Parenthood is just out there to help clean up our sexual depravity. The abortion is part of it. It really is. So this whole notion that Planned Parenthood is just a total evil. Well, yes, its charter and its founder and everything, evil in intentions and evil purpose and evil goals and all that kind of stuff. But you got to go and bring it forth in the modern day, and where you have all of this promiscuity and everything, and it's just over the top. And whenever something bad happens, it's hey. What do you hear? Hey, go to the clinic or go to Planned Parenthood to get that cleaned up or taken care of. That's what it's all. It's to help keep the whole promiscuity thing going, folks, because there's money in that. There's big money from the hookup side. What is it? What is a Grindr? I guess there are. Well, not I guess. I know that there are sexual orientated preference sites. And there's all kinds of crap. There's hookup sites for straight couples and for same sex people, and there are swinging apps out. For swingers, there are apps out there for that, I guess. And there's it's just, if you just Google this stuff, you would think that the United States is probably the most depraved country that the planet has ever seen. But you would be wrong, because this type of stuff is worldwide. And many of the largest or biggest or most popular hookup sites are in many different countries. And they're language specific. Even for Asia is starting to see this type of thing that they never saw before, and it's blowing their. Well, that's why some of these countries are trying to lock down their internet service and cut Google out and cut Facebook out and cut. Facebook is actually kind of becoming a hookup site for the younger set, for teens. I know the whole. We've seen the stats that teen sexual activity is down, but there's a misnomer again. The research thing. Yeah, teens are not having intercourse like they used to. The intercourse sex is down, which means teen pregnancy is starting to drop. That's a good thing. The bad thing is that teen-related STDs are on the rise because teens are having sexual relations that don't involve intercourse. So you figure out what they're doing. And I know some parents are probably like, oh my God. I thought Jimmy wasn't having sex. Jimmy's having sex. Well, I hate to scare you parents of Jimmy, but Jimmy might not be having sex with the daughter next door. Jimmy might be having sex with the boy down the street. Just saying. Because that's considered to be safe. That's safer sex. It's not really safe or safer. But, if your son is having an affair with another boy down the street, well, nobody's going to get pregnant. Same with if your daughter's having an affair with the girl, down the street, well, neither one of the girls are going to get pregnant. But this is what Planned Parenthood is for, is to clean this stuff up. And here from NPR.org, what you had, I know some people are going to say, what the hell is Rod talking about? What is he? What's the remember the Dr. Ruth Is this the Dr. Ruth show or something? Look, folks, this is the stuff that's happening. This is stuff that you have to understand and know, because it's going to get to it always gets to a point where somebody just decides, in order to try to stem the tide of the depravity, we got to make a law. And then this is how we get all kinds of stupid, invasive, intrusive, freedom-killing laws. Because somebody decides, this is getting out of hand, we got to do something about it, so the only thing we can do about it is make a law. This is stuff you got to know. But Planned Parenthood revenue sources, their biggest source of revenue for Planned Parenthood comes from government. This is from NPR. Their next biggest source of revenue is from private sources. And then their next big, their government sources are over $528 million are provided to Planned Parenthood from government sources. Private sources provide another $392 million. Are you getting these numbers down? By the time is all said and done, we're talking over $1 billion. But non-government services give the organization another $300 million. And other revenues. Now, I don't know what other revenues could possibly mean for Planned Parenthood, but other revenues come in in the neighborhood of $78 million. Now, this is what NPR breaks this down as what their services are for the fiscal year of 2013-2014. 42% of their services are for STIs and STDs, sexually transmitted infections and sexually transmitted diseases. And look, that didn't used to be that way. Yeah, it was always big, but it didn't used to be, that number didn't used to be that high. And the reason is it's on the rise. There are certain sexually transmitted diseases and infections that are on the rise because, in part, due to these hookup sites are so prevalent and so popular. And this whole notion that, health classes in high school, hey, have safer sex, kids. Experiment. You don't have to have, traditional male and female sexual intercourse, because that can lead to pregnancy. But there's all kinds of other sexual intercourses that you could have and do and practice and without getting pregnant that won't even lead to the possibility of pregnancy. So nobody will ever find out. You keep it to yourself. That's why I said, you better check on Jimmy sometimes, because he might be having some fun with Danny down the street. Or whatever your kid's name is and their best friend, or what, friend or not friend. If all of a sudden your son's got a new friend, you might want to ask questions. They hang out a lot. If he's always been around, maybe I watch too many movies or something. I don't know. But anyway, STDs treatment accounts for about 42% of the services that Planned Parenthood provides. So it doesn't need to be Planned Parenthood. Anybody, any clinic, your doctor, what have you, emergency room could even treat this stuff. Contraception. In case your kids are straight, 100% straight, and want to have sex with the opposite sex, 34% of that goes for contraception. Other women's services, 11%. Now, I don't know what other women's services are, since they don't provide things like pap smears and mammograms and things. But cancer screenings they do. But their cancer screenings are very limited, and that's only 9% of the services that they offer. Abortion services are 3%. But that's also misleading, because abortion revenue accounts for more than 50% of Planned Parenthood's revenue. So they may only provide about 3% of their total services. But hey, you're giving a kid a STD shot or cream or something. It's not that much as far as cost is concerned. Where the big money is obviously in the abortion factories. I'm telling you, folks, this is not our government. Look, if the Planned Parenthood is like any other, private health, and they're supposed to be a private health organization, so why are they getting all this big, huge funding from government services. Like I said, New Hampshire, they've just voted because of all this stuff with the 5 videos that have been released, that they've decided that on the state level they're going to give Planned Parenthood a vasectomy, cut them off. Good thing, in my book. Yeah, that's people may say that New Hampshire is being a little bit brave, but $800,000 over 800. That's just insane. Never, ever should our government even think about supporting such a thing. Hey, quickly, folks, there is something else that came across my feed that I wanted to share with you, and I think this is a little disturbing. It's very disturbing. Now, and the disturbing thing about it is, well, I know it's from worldtruth.tv, but you gotta, when you take into account some of the other sources that sort of back this up, you have to understand that this is quite alarming. Now, most of us are probably very familiar with, random DWI checkpoints. And in most municipalities, they advertise that they're going to have a DWI checkpoint, at least about a week in advance. I know they do around here in New Hampshire. Yeah. They don't tell you the street that it's going to be on, but you usually can figure it out. Because it usually has to be something that's worth, a street or an area that it's fairly high traffic, or else they're not going to really catch anybody. So you can, and depending on the town, you can usually figure out the road that they're going to be, that this stop is going to be on. Because they tell you about a week in advance. This coming weekend, expect a DWI checkpoint. They don't tell you where, but in most communities, you can kind of figure out where it's going to be. So we're kind of used to that. We've been conditioned to expect that. Now, I know there have been all kinds of YouTube videos and everything about people challenging this thing and not really cooperating and saying that this is a illegal search and seizure and that kind of stuff. And I know that there have been some court cases, and in some cases, people have won based on this type of thing. It really, I guess, is going to depend on the judge that you have and your state's laws, but there are people that have won that are based on that argument that it was an illegal search and seizure and you didn't consent to it, because you're innocent until proven guilty. But a DWI check is assuming that you're guilty and that you have to prove your innocence, and that's not the way our system works. So we've been conditioned. I know a lot of people just automatically just comply because we're told to comply with the cops. Whatever they ask you, you have to answer. Well, true or not true, it doesn't really matter. The whole point is that we've been conditioned to accept it. And now something new is popping up. Federal contractors have been setting up roadblocks in cities across the country with this specific purpose of collecting your DNA sample. The multi-million-dollar federal program has been disturbing drivers and alarming civil libertarians. Now, I wouldn't call myself a civil libertarian per se, but I got to tell you that raises red flags for me all over, and alarm bells and everything else. For me, really, they want, but it's you would think, okay, maybe they're just trying to catalog U.S. citizens. Well, first of all, they could do it a different way if they really wanted to. But here is the real insidious purpose behind this and how they're doing it. Now, the checkpoints consist of uniformed agents, not cops, but uniformed agents. And these uniformed agents are blocking public roads and flagging drivers into a testing area or a parking lot. The drivers are then requested to submit a saliva or blood sample to the federal government. Now, I'd like to be able to hear that conversation. Hey, how would you like to give a DNA sample to the federal government. Now, the roadblocks were part of a study orchestrated by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The agency contracted the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation, based in Maryland. But they're called the Pacific Institute, based in Maryland. Yeah, go figure that one out. To perform the roadblocks. Now, the program cost taxpayers, it's costing taxpayers money, $7.9 million over 3 years, according to NBC News in Dallas, Fort Worth. Now, the agency confirmed that the operation is currently being launched in 30 different cities, but they wouldn't say what those cities, or name those 30 cities. They said just 30 cities. Wouldn't you like to know if it's coming to your city? I'd like to know if they're doing it down in Boston. But, just wait until you find out when we get back from the break exactly what they're doing with this stuff.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
So instantaneously. Now, when I say stuff that's just comes across my newsfeed, I know some of you are probably trying to catch me and say, "But you said you do all that research in this stuff." Now, when I say just came across, I don't mean this very instant that I say it. That would be kind of stupid. Because I don't have my newsfeed running while I'm doing the show. I mean, I don't see it. Because, a lot of this newsfeed stuff, when I say it comes across, it gets dumped into, certain applications that the RSS stuff. And so you got to actually open the RSS feed and read it. And you got to, emails, you got to open up your email account and read it. And that stuff is not running while I'm doing the show. So when I say it could be one of the last pieces of things, information that comes across, as I'm preparing for the show. And I'll do a quick research behind it if it catches my attention. And this is why I did this, because I thought it was important. And I did really just put it over there on the Rod Eccles Show fan page over on Facebook, because I wasn't going to cover it. But then as I start thinking about it throughout the show, see, I can do like 5 different things at the same time. And you'll never know that, especially when it comes to my mind. I mean, I'm doing the show right now, but I'm also probably thinking about 3 or 4 other things having real thought about this stuff while I'm doing a show. And you're not even noticing it because it doesn't affect with what I'm doing right now. So as I was thinking about this, as I was talking to you about Planned Parenthood and stuff, I said, this is important stuff, just like Planned Parenthood. You guys got to know this kind of stuff. So this is what's happening with drivers in these 30 cities, which is going to, if they're doing it in 30, you know that they're going to expand it because the government, it's only 7.9, it's only $8 million, a $3 trillion, $4 trillion budget. What's $8 million? Let's just up this a little bit. Let's go to 20 million, expand this to like 50 or 60 cities, huh? Yeah, 70 cities. There we go. We'll cover the whole damn United States for less than 100 million. Let's do that. It's only $100 million. What's $100 million on a $4 trillion budget? But drivers this is what a lot of the cash or the money's for. Drivers are offered cash for surrendering DNA samples. Here's the going rate. $10 for a cheek swab. $50 for blood drawn from your vein. Now the goal, according to the NHTSA is to, there's those letter acronyms again. TSA is in there too, but it's not the it's not the airport security. Is to decrease impaired driving accidents by analyzing raw bodily fluids fresh off the street. So they're trying to make you think that they're not cataloging your DNA, but they're just getting samples. So what you think? Well, I'm not drunk, but aha! As the wonderful brilliant Jew man says when he gets something, aha! Here is the rub. They want to find out of all the people that are surveyed, how many people were driving with alcohol in their system, or prescription drugs, or illegal drugs, or things like that, said Lieutenant Freddie Turrentine of the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department in Pell City, Alabama. So you get now understand that this stuff is going to develop, and you're going to be pulled over, and you're going to be asked to be given a swab or a blood sample. Yeah, we're going to give you $10 or $50. Here you go, and they're going to say, "Give me 60 seconds. We'll be back with your check." And they're going to come back, and if you've done or had something that you probably shouldn't have had while driving, they're going to come back and with the good old handcuff and say, "Hey, you want to step out of the car?" Don't doubt me on this. Or they're going to use this data in order to try to write new laws. Hey, maybe. For instance, for me, a lot of times, if I don't get headaches often, they're a rare occurrence. But when I do, taking 2 Advil does not stop the headache. I've got to take 3. Well, maybe somebody will decide that, having 3 pills in your system, is over the limit. Just saying. Now, the NHTSA says that the samples are voluntary. But voluntary. Now, do people really believe that a DWI checkpoint or something that looks like a DWI checkpoint is really voluntary? Most Americans do not. And drivers have had varying experiences on this. Now, one woman from North Fort Worth, Texas, said that the checkpoint she experienced was not voluntary at all. She was forced off the road into a parking lot back on November 15th of 2014 and pressured into submitting to a breathalyzer. Now, why would you have to take a breathalyzer if you're only going to volunteer a swab or blood sample? Now, she was on her lunch break when she was forced into the checkpoint. She says, "I gestured to the guy in front that I just wanted to go straight, but he wouldn't let me and forced me into a parking lot," she said. And she told this to NBC's Dallas-Fort Worth news station. They were asking for cheek swabs. It would give you $10 for that. Also, if you let them take your blood, they would pay you $50 for that. But she said she was not interested in getting paid. And I finally did the breathalyzer test just because I thought that would be the easiest way for me to leave. And people capitulate every single time on this kind of stuff. That's not voluntary. Now, how voluntary is it when you have a police officer in uniform flagging you down? Asked Susan Watson, executive director of the Alabama chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union. Are you going to stop? Well, of course you are. You're going to stop. Although this was voluntary, it was not voluntary that you stop and hear the DNA for cash pitch, said Alabama resident Jay Bosey after experiencing a checkpoint in June. And the stories go on and on and on. Just stuff like this is just out there, folks. This is why, this is what I'm here for. This is why I am on the case for you, to give you all this information that nobody else has got. Did anybody else hear any of this from any other talk show host out there today? Absolutely not. I'm going to going to wage a small bet, give you a nickel if I'm wrong, to say no. Nobody did. So you only get that stuff here. And where is here? Here is, by the way, from me, your lovable host, Elrod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great Granite State of New Hampshire, where the state motto is live free or die. So far as I know, we don't have these kind of checkpoints. The state motto is still live free or die. I did check today just to make sure. It is Wednesday, hump day for some people, August the 5th in the year of our Lord 2015. Halfway through the week, sliding into the weekend. The number that you can call this evening is toll-free, 603-835-3224. Again, the number is 603-835-3224, and that is a toll-free number. Just in case you weren't exactly sure. Just in case you weren't sure. I just want to make sure that you're sure that the number is toll-free. Toll-free means, it can't be completely free because you have got to expend a minute amount of energy in order to dial the numbers or punch or input the numbers into your telephony device. Which means in order to expend that energy, that means you have to, eat, most likely. So you'll have to buy the food. Yeah, because I'm not buying you food. So you have to buy the food in order to give your body the energy to be able to input those digits into your telephony device to give me a call. So it's not completely free, but it's free of tolls on the call. It's included with whatever phone plan you already have. So, well, I guess that's not free either because you still got to pay for the phone. Are there? Well, yeah, I guess you could. There are some free phone that you could use. Google Voice or something, I think, is free. So, but in any case, it would not be totally free because you've got to eat in order to give your body energy in order to to input those digits into your telephony device. But there is no charge from a telephony company, extra charge to make that call. Just so you know. You got to kind of use that disclaimer stuff because sometimes people will try to catch you and say, yeah, it's not totally free, man. I had to go out and buy a hamburger, and that hamburger cost me $2. Just saying. And you shouldn't probably eat. Yesterday, I actually had some liberal nut job tell me that I shouldn't go to fast food restaurants. I don't eat at them a lot anyway, but I shouldn't go to places, like, what we typically call a fast food restaurant, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Taco Bell, that type of thing. And the reason is because they were bad for the environment and contributed to global warming. I kid you not. So I asked this person, I said, are you a PETA member, meaning are you a vegetarian? And he said no, he liked meat, but he refused to go out to eat to these fast food places because they're so bad and horrible for the environment. And I was trying to pin him down and said, well, how exactly are they bad for the environment? Is it because, they have to use energy in order to cook the food for you? I mean, you have to cook the food at home, but they do a lot of cooking, so they use less energy per person to make this food. And he just couldn't give me a real logical answer as to why fast food joints were bad for the environment and contributors to global warming. He probably heard it from some, it was a soundbite he heard someplace and just decided to believe it. And this kind of stuff happens all the time. Hey, Rod, you shouldn't eat at a fast food joint. Why? Because that's contributing to global warming. Well, if it weren't for health issues, because a lot of that fast food stuff, eating it all the time is really not healthy for your mind and body. However, if that were not the case, if it were absolutely, totally, and completely healthy for me, after having that short conversation, I'd go out to a fast food restaurant every single freaking day. But, there are no fast food vegetarian houses. You know what? Maybe that's another great business idea for somebody. And if you start such a thing, a fast food vegetarian restaurant, I want a 1% commission on every food sale that you have. Hey, if I give you people enough ideas, you just make me rich with royalties. I don't mind that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's my idea. If it doesn't already exist, it's because it's my idea. And as the wonderful colloquialist and urbanist say, I gots to get paid. But there, hey, look, I was told that it's a part of the wonderful global warming conspiracy out there. But speaking of global warming conspiracy, this is from thedailycaller.com. Climate scientists rip apart EPA's global warming rule. Now, I know I brought you some information about this yesterday, but here's some more information about this wonderful thing from the because yesterday I told you about how there was collusion between environmentalist groups, environmentalist wacko groups, and the government, like the EPA, government departments. The sue and settle type of scenario where these environmentalist wackos will instigate these lawsuits against various governmental departments that have sway and precedence over our environment in various aspects of our environment. So they would sue, and then instead of the EPA wanting to take it to court, because they've always wanted to do something like that anyway, they would meet with these environmentalist wacko groups and settle out of court of what hey, okay, we're going to have this kind of regulation, this regulation, this regulation. And the environmentalist wacko group says, okay, yeah, we'll accept that. And we'll drop the lawsuit. So it's a tactic that they call a sue and settle. And it was a tactic that they used quite often to get their agenda passed for, the environment. And which is how we're getting a lot of this wacko environmentalist regulation. That makes absolutely no sense. But the Obama administration recently unveiled regulations further limiting carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. Now, some climate scientists are criticizing the rules for doing virtually nothing to reduce global temperature rises. The whole point of reducing CO2, well, they can't reduce temp. Look, there is no global warming. That's the problem. The Earth has either been in a cooling or holding pattern for the past 18 years or so. And so whatever we do, we're obviously not going to reduce the temperature any, because the temperature is already, the climate is much bigger than mankind. Now, let me explain something to you, Lucy. Here's the argument that they'll try to play on you, and I'm going to use a different scenario. Now, a while ago, last year, I had a conversation with a police officer. Now, he was a friend. He was a friend of a friend of he's a good friend of. A good friend of mine is who he was a friend of. We were at a barbecue, and I knew who he was. We've always been cordial. I wouldn't say we were friends, but we knew each other. We're cordial. We've been around each other before. And we were discussing military tactics for police. Now, and I understand this particular officer, was never in the military. So I did not believe that he fully understood military tactics being used on civilian populations. And I said, we were arguing about certain aspects of military style tactics of police, and sometimes that they go horribly wrong and they're dangerous, and that police should not have certain types of equipment all the time. And for some reason, we got on this point of body armor and how he said, well, civilians shouldn't be allowed to have it. Only cops should have body armor, bulletproof vest. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. If you don't want the civilians, why should you have it? And he looked at me and said, well, if you don't want cops to have it, that means you want cops to get shot. Like, no, that's not what it means. Of course I don't want police officers to get shot. But I don't think, and it started to get my blood boiling, because I was like, I don't think cops should have bulletproof vests. And they should be using SWAT tactics like that. Military tactics and busting down people's doors. He goes, oh, so you'd rather have cops get shot. Like, how does that compute? Because I don't think you should do one thing. It automatically assumes that I want cops to get shot. Well, obviously that was an inane argument on his part. But this is the same thing that the environmentalists use. Oh, if you don't want these regulations, on coal plants or other types of environmental regulations, that means you want dirty air and dirty water. No, I do not want dirty air and dirty water. I just don't want these stupid regulations that really aren't going to do a damn thing except raise everybody's prices on everything. Oh, you don't want the regulations? No. Well, then you want dirty air and dirty water. No. How does that equate me not wanting this particular stupid, useless regulation that isn't going to protect the environment at all? All it's going to do is raise prices for everything. How does that equate to me wanting dirty air and dirty water? I want clean air and clean water, but I want stuff, regulation and laws that actually work, that isn't going to cause the cost of living to go through the roof. Oh, well, that just means you just want dirty air and dirty water. Well, it's an inane argument that you cannot win because it's illogical from its premise. So for me, with a logical mind, it's not that I need to win the argument, but there is no way for me to win that argument because their premise is illogical to begin with. So this whole notion that, we got to have all these regulations, Rod, just in case. Just in case what? In case there's global warming. But there isn't any global warming over the past 18 years. So already your argument is a moot point. There is no basis for it. Well, we should have these regulations just in case things heat up again. What do you mean just in case? This is what they're saying. Well, just in case. Well, if that's the case, then if we're polluting right now and there is no global warming, well, that means man is not responsible for it. So having these ridiculous, overly expensive regulations is not going to do anything to alleviate a future potential problem of the earth heating up. And that's just one of the dumbest things that a person could ever come up with. But when you try to use logic with somebody who's using an inane argument who is illogical, you've already, pretty much lost. So you're just going to give yourself a headache, and you're going to need 3 Advil instead of 2. In which case, if you get pulled over at one of these so-called, DNA stops, they might say, well, you're over your limit, and bring out the handcuffs and arrest you for being under the influence of Advil. Don't doubt me. I'm telling you, folks, I know how liberals think. I know how government officials think when they want to create new law and regulations that control our lives. I know all that. Look, I'm too well versed and too experienced with these people. You gotta trust me on this. This is what they're looking for. And if you don't go along with their stupidity, then they're going to accuse you of wanting the worst. So if you don't want to go along with the idea that, that cops should be able to bust down anybody's door using SWAT and military tactics and in full body armor and using, cannons and machine guns and all that kind of stuff, if you don't want them to do that, that means you want cops to get shot. And if you don't want, over-regulation out there on the environmental side, well, that just means that you want dirty air and dirty water. And think of any argument that liberals are saying that we need to do something with, and they'll come up with the premise that if you don't want what they want, then that means that you want the bad stuff that they say they don't want. Don't doubt me on this, folks. That's how they operate.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-616-8010. That's 1-800-616-8010. Again, 1-800-616-8010. Call now.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Power Swabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is Ben Gordon with Power Swabs, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Power Swabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed by Dr. Martin Ginniger that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Power Swabs risk-free, call 1-800-291-5140. That's 1-800-291-5140. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-291-5140. That's 1-800-291-5140.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. Woo! There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
1-603-835-3224 is the toll-free number to call should you wish to join me here. Yours truly, L. Rod, here on the Rod Eccles Show. Excuse me. The one thing that you don't hear, going back to the article in Daily Caller, well, the one thing you don't hear President Obama mention is how much his proposed emissions reductions will reduce global warming, wrote Dr. Judith Curry, a climatologist at Georgia Tech. Now, it has been estimated, she says, that the U.S. climate plan of 28% emissions reduction by 2025 will prevent 0.03 degrees Celsius in warming by 2100. And these estimates assume that climate model projections are correct, Curry wrote. And if the climate models are oversensitive to CO2, the amount of warming prevented will be even smaller. So in other words, if the so-called models that they're using to predict this type of stuff, if there's too much emphasis or weight or credibility given to CO2, and CO2 really isn't going to, do that much to increase the temperature, then that increase is actually going to be smaller. And notice how it's always at some, the left has learned this. They've learned, don't predict some sort of disastrous outcome within the lifetime of the people that you're trying to control. So Al Gore had it all wrong. Yeah, we're going to die by the year 2010 or something like that. Al Gore had that wrong. What he should have said is, hey, if we don't do, the inconvenient truth, he should have said, if we don't do something about global warming now, your children and grandchildren are going to die. Because, we're not going to be around. I would dare to say that, most of us who are listening to this program right now are not going to be alive in the year 2100. So we're not going to be here to see the actual proof of whether or not these idiots on the left are right or those who actually use real science on the right are going to be right. We're not going to know. Well, maybe we'll look down from heaven or look up from hell, depending on who you are. And we'll see it there, but we won't be able to do anything here on the earth. So we're not going to be around. Now, I look, I think it would be rather lovely. Maybe medical science will be able to prolong human life so some of us can be around in 2100, but I'm not expecting that. Because, that would put most of us well over the age of 100 by the time 2100 comes around. So I don't think we're going to be around. So we're not. So they're learning how to put this stuff out just far enough so those who they're trying to control today aren't going to be around to see if what was predicted actually comes to pass. That's how you control people, because when you start saying, well, in 10 years we're all going to be dead, and 10 years comes, it gets here and we're still here, people aren't going to believe you anymore. But if you can start putting stuff out to a point where you cannot prove it or disprove it, well, then, you might get some people to say, well, they might be correct. But 0.03 degrees by the year 2100? Do you know how minuscule that is? Now, the EPA's so-called Clean Power Plan aims to reduce emissions 32% below 2005 levels by 2030. Now, all of this stuff that's by 2030 and 2025 is supposed to decrease the potential for disaster in 2100. Now, most of us are going to be around by the year 2025 and in 2030. We're still going to be here. So we're going to feel the full effect of this governmental overreach and pay the full price of this governmental overreach, both in terms of lack of freedom, and lack of less money in our pocket, because it's going to fly out of everybody's wallets and pocketbooks in order to pay for this kind of crap. But we're not going to be around to see the fruits of our labor. And we're not going to be around to know if what we did actually worked. And so, but we're going to pay for it. But we're not going to, experience it, and we're not going to reap the fruits of our labor, and we're not going to know if it actually worked or not. So we can, tweak it and say, well, no, that didn't work, so we're not going to do that anymore, and bring prices down. No, we're not going to. No, we're going to have to pay the full Monty. So by the time 2100 gets here, and nothing happens, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't affect the climate. And, the climate does whatever the hell it wants to do. And we find out that man has had no impact, or very, 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 very little impact on the environment and the climate. And, then you'll just have some people in the future saying, well, they were stupid. I guarantee you that is what our grandchildren are going to be telling us. They're going to be, grandma and grandpa and great-grandma and great-grandpa, they were pretty stupid back then about this climate warming stuff, weren't they? Yeah, they were kind of dumb. Now, well, it is. That's what's going to happen. I'm sorry, you may not, you leftists out there may not like this whole possibility of you being thought of as being totally stupid. But that's the way history is. Your grandchildren, great-grandchildren are going to be, that's what they're going to learn about you in school. And they're going to learn how dumb you were in school, probably elementary school. Because that's where I first started learning about, global cooling, actually, before they changed it to global warming. Turn off the lights. And, this is how bad it was when I was in grade school. And they started bringing this crap into schools and bringing it to the forefront about global cooling. And then global warming. And then when they switched to global warming, they made us in class, in like art class and stuff. We had to write song lyrics to global warming or global cooling back then. But that's music class. But what's really insidious is that in art class, we were told and directed to make out of construction paper, light switch covers. Now, on the light switch covers, we were supposed to practice drawing certain, environmental things. If you could draw an animal, you drew an animal. You could draw trees or what have you. And you were supposed to put sayings on it. Now, they gave us a number of, we didn't have to think of the sayings, thank goodness, but we had a number of different sayings that were provided to us in art class to put on these construction paper light covers. And they were preprint mimeograph back then. There were no copiers, so mimeograph. So it had the cutout for the light switch, and there were different sizes, for the single switch and the double switch and the triple switch. If you had a bigger than the triple switch, they didn't have a sample for you. But we were supposed to make these things, and we were supposed to draw our little pictures out and cut out the little holes and everything for the light switch, and put these sayings on it about saving energy and saving the planet and saving energy and not experiencing another ice age. Turn off this light or an ice age will come or something like that. We had this list of different, and we'd put them on these light switch covers that we're making out of construction paper, and we were fully expected to go home and put them on a few of our light. We were expected to put them on our bedroom light switch, so it remind us. We were expected to put them on the not the bathroom, but like the kitchen light switch, the hallway light switch. They gave us. We were supposed to have like 4 or 5 of these things, and we're supposed to distribute them throughout the house, but not the bathroom, obviously, because that would get wet and everything. Unless, of course, your light switch for your bathroom was outside the bathroom, then you could put it on that. But this is what they did to try to drill it into our heads that global cooling and global warming was real. So I can almost guarantee you that come 2100, when none of these predictions ever come true about climate change and man-made global climate change, that they're going to start teaching in school about in history class how stupid we were back in the day. and that we'd fall for anything. I don't know about you. Not that after I'm, gone, that it's really going to affect me what people thought of me while I was, back in my time on this planet. But do you really want to be thought of as being stupid? Because you know what? You liberals, you're going to be viewed as being extremely stupid. Falling for anything. Yeah, I guarantee you. Speaking of cooling the place, have you seen pictures of the polar regions over the past few years? NASA satellite photos of the polar regions and all the ice that is there. I don't think there's one single damn polar bear who's been drowning because there's way too much ice for them to walk on. They don't got to do a lot of swimming. Just saying. But anyway, the polar regions, however, and you got to wonder what our wonderful president is really thinking and going to do about the issue that I'm about to share with you. And that's with wonderful Vladimir Putin of Mother Russia. Russia. Now, this is going to make the Crimea takeover in the Ukraine look like a cakewalk. It was practice. It was just practice. We practiced on Ukraine. They haven't given it back. The old Soviet style stuff. Once they take something, they don't give it back. But Russia is demanding exclusive ownership of the North Pole. This is WashingtonTimes.com. Let me ask you this question. Have you heard any of your favorite, other than me, any of your other favorite talk show hosts, whether they be conservative, moderate, or liberal, talk about this? Probably not. But yes, Vladimir Putin, Russia's famous president. Russia, this is a story from the Washington Times, while still digesting its meal of Crimea, is taking another bite at expanding its sovereignty by laying claim to the North Pole in a large area of the Arctic Ocean. Now, granted, he's got a reason for doing this. Now, I'm not saying, it's a legitimate reason. Of course it's not. But he's got a reason for doing this. And what is that reason? Oh, the area that he's talking about the areas involving oil and gas drilling as well as fishing. Screw the fishing part. That's irrelevant. Because at some point they'll just say, well, you can't fish anymore anyway. And UN will say, well, Vladimir, stop them from fishing because you're killing off all the fish and we're all going to starve if you don't stop them fishing. He says, that's okay. I got oil and gas drilling going on in the North Pole. Now, the Russian Foreign Ministry submitted its request yesterday, Tuesday, to the United Nations Committee that arbitrates sea boundaries. So... what do you think is going to happen if the UN looks at Russia and Vladimir and says, hey, Vlad, no, man, we can't give you the North Pole. Kind of like, hey, Vlad, we can't let you keep Crimea. Do you think that's going to stop him? We don't have a president that has the balls and the chutzpah to stop this guy. He would, Barack Obama actually, I know there are people, they think that Obama, he's it. He's the turd. But the man, he must, every time he comes up to President Putin, Obama must be pissing he's wearing Depends because he's pissing his pants. I mean, think about it. While Obama's over here weakening our military and even trying to cut the army down by another 40,000 troops, Putin is over there not only expanding his military, but he's giving them real world practice by invading other countries. So he's just going to say, well, okay, Barack, I'm going to take at least part of the North Atlantic Sea. Try and stop me. Well, what's Obama going to do? Well, we're gonna put sanctions on you. Well, I thought sanctions don't work. Isn't that how we get in this Iran deal? Because sanctions really aren't working. It's only hurting the people. It isn't keeping the government from doing what that government wants to do. I think that's so. So do you really think that putting sanctions on Russia, who is just going to end up selling all that oil over to China anyway, and saying, screw you, America? How do you stop this guy? Well, you got to have real leadership. That's how you stop this guy. That's how you stop him. You got to have a real brass knuckles, brass balls leader. That was, what I know I probably shouldn't say this, but you know who I would love to see negotiate and go at it, and I still know who would win. I would love to see Ronald Reagan and Vladimir Putin. Reagan would still mop up the floor with Putin because Reagan understood. He was a real leader, and he was willing to walk away. And, what is it? Tomorrow's a debate. You know who are the two people... And look, I'm not endorsing either one of these people because I said I'm not endorsing any. I don't know who I'm going to endorse or choose for the GOP nomination. But I can tell you this: I know for sure that there are two candidates. Now, there may be more, but I know there is at least two candidates. I know two candidates that would do the Reagan thing and say, "Look, buddy, if you're not going to negotiate, guess what? The Arctic is off the table anyway. We're not negotiating that. Plain and simple. You got a problem with that? I guess we're going to fight over it and walk away from the table." And that would be Trump and Cruz. I guarantee you they would take Putin down a notch or two. They would stand up to that big thug international bully and just say, "Oh, hell no, dude. You are not doing that anymore. You want to pull this kind of crap? Well, we're putting missiles pointed at you back in NATO. Oh, you don't like it? Well, too bad. Stand down." Kind of like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, that's the kind of leader that we need with the Ruskies, with Putin. That's the kind of leadership you need. Stand down, or hey, we're doing it. Not saying, "Oh, well, come on, please, Vladimir, please, you're making me look bad. Can you please, man, don't do this. Not now, please. My legacy, you're screwing up my legacy." That's Obama. And this whole notion that they're even going to go, do you think that Putin really cares what the UN's going to say? He's probably already making plans. Not probably already, but he's probably already made plans on how to take over at least a portion of the Arctic. And once he grabs it, he's not letting it go. He's just going to say, "Well, come and take it." Because that's kind of what he's doing with Crimea. He's saying, "We're here now. Come and take it." I mean, poor Ukraine can't do a damn thing because, their army really kind of, let's face it. All of those, most of those former Soviet satellites, especially what we might call the Baltic and northern countries, like Ukraine and the Baltic nations and Kazakhstan and all those others over there in Georgia, they don't have a military that's worth shit. Actually, excuse my French, they really don't. when the Soviet Union fell, they kind of made sure that those satellite countries that were now becoming independent once again really didn't have jack for military. And they haven't had the economies and the wherewithal to spend the money to build their militaries. So it makes it very easy for Russia just to be able to do what the hell it wants. And look what they did to Georgia. They basically really, literally, nearly wiped out the country of Georgia, their entire army, without hardly losing any equipment and personnel themselves. And then, they say, then my bad. Putin's like, my bad, we'll pull out, sorry, no big deal. Well, now they really devastated that country. They don't have an army anymore. They don't have a military anymore. It's the same as the Ukraine really doesn't have one. I mean, what are they? I mean, it's kind of, they're throwing, it's kind of like, people shooting bullets and the enemy has laser rifles and photon torpedoes. The people with the bullets against photon torpedoes really aren't going to do very well. Well, we see what happened in Ukraine. And Ukraine's army, what little army they had that they tried to throw at this whole thing in Crimea, well, they were just devastated. They were obliterated pretty much. So they stopped trying to take them on because they knew it was going to be pretty much worthless. And even if they did try to start, even if they were starting to make some gains, all Putin had to do was just, roll in a tank battalion and take them out. It's just... So what are we going to do if Putin decides that, well, I'm just taking over the Arctic? What are you going to do about it? And he starts lining up his warships out there. We're going to start firing at each other's warships in order for over the Atlantic. Well, you got to stop him before he takes it. That's the whole point. And I don't know, maybe Putin, smelling blood in the water because he realizes that, it's a very good possibility that the Americans, we here in America, elect a good, solid, conservative, strong leader, much like Reagan, who isn't going to put up with his BS. Just saying, that type of thing. Well, it can happen. It should happen. Hope it happens. Now, the Arctic Ocean has attracted other countries, including the U.S., Canada, Denmark, and Norway, and exposed rivalries over resources such as untapped oil and gas. Now, Russia made a bid in 2002, but the UN committee rejected it because of lack of evidence. Evidence of what? Of the oil and gas, or that Russia has claim to it? It's just one of those things, folks, that you really, it's not a cool thing. It's really not. We'll have to continue this type of discussion tomorrow. Because you know what that sound means? That sound means that we are now out of time. But fear not, I will be back here tomorrow, same back time, same back channel. Until then, I'm Rod Eccles. This has been the Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.
the leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.